Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play Suzerain. Sorry it's been, like 2 weeks since the last part, something like that. Just haven't really had the time to go and sit down and do a recording, and then when I did I was also trying to get a bunch of parts recorded for a second series on the channel. But here we go, I have the time again, so let's go ahead and try to get a couple of episodes recorded this time around. Let me get my timer started. So the last part, we decided to focus our efforts on improving the railroad, or not the railroads, the highway, basically, that goes from Lockhaven to Arvory. Let's see, we have an option to invest in Arcasian company stocks. A personal investment opportunity has been relayed by Mr. Manager, by Mr. Manager, not Mr. Manager. An experienced stockbroker in Ventress City, Arcasia, is selling valuable shares of Armadine Industries, an up-and-coming electronics manufacturing company. We could invest or let the opportunity pass. I'm not sure if personal wealth can go negative or not. And I believe there's at least one instance where I want to keep a little bit left over for myself to use for a future event. So we're just going to go ahead and buy 2,000 shares, which is going to be 2 personal wealth. Let's see, looks like nothing going on yet. So we have a reception at the inaugural ball. I had just finished buttoning up my suit jacket when the doorbell rang. The presidential guard had arrived to pick us up for the inaugural ball. The ball was a 3-decade-old tradition, breathlessly anticipated by politicians, bureaucrats, and the press. All eyes were about to be on me. I called on Monica to get the children ready. Looking in the mirror, I straightened my tie and took a deep breath. After tonight, there would be no turning back. Suddenly, Diana hugged me from behind, startling me a little. Monica had fixed her hair into an elaborate braid woven through with ribbons. "Papa, Mama told me it's time to go." Let's see. Tell your mother I'll be ready very soon. "Okay, Papa. I can't wait to see the palace." It was almost time to leave. The big ball was starting in less than an hour. Let's see. Monica, Frank, enough fussing around. Let's get a move on. Monica came down the stairs. She was wearing a simple yet elegant beige sheath dress and short heels. Her hair had been neatly pinned into a chigon, showing off the pearl earrings I'd given her for our 15th anniversary. All those years she had stayed by my side. Now we were about to begin the most challenging chapter in our lives yet. "How do you do, Mr. President?" Let's see, I kiss her hand. She extended a gloved hand and I raised it to my lips. Let's see, "Monica, my love, you look as gorgeous as the day we married." "Now, there's that charm that got you elected." Frank trudged down the stairs. "This thing itches." Frank tugged at the collar of his new tuxedo. He seemed ill at ease. "I'm glad to have you with us for this big night." "Sure, Dad. I'm just dying to go." "Papa, are these people going to be around us from now on?" She pointed at the presidential guards at the door of the house. "Say, these people are our friends, Diana." "It's all right, baby. They're here to make sure nothing bad happens to your papa or his family." Monica held Diana's hand. Together, flanked by the guards, we walked out the door. Halfway to the car, Frank stopped abruptly and turned towards me. "Dad, do I really have to go? Couldn't I stay home instead?" Let's see. "I'm nervous myself, Frank, but I'd feel a lot more confident with my son by my side." Frank smiled reluctantly. "Well, when you put it like that, sure, let's go." The presidential guard showed us the way as red and blue lights flashed around us Sergei, my driver, ushered us into our armored limousine. The motorcade started moving toward the palace. I gazed out the window, deep in thought. Anton, what are you thinking about? I was thinking that we've come a long way together, haven't we? Yes, we have. And there's still so much that we'll accomplish side by side. Just remember, no matter what happens, the children and I will always be here for you. I'm gonna help Papa fix everything. Frank rolled his eyes. I know you will, honey. Let's see. Let's just enjoy the night. After what seemed like just a few minutes, the convoy slowed to a halt. Sergei rolled down the limousine's soundproof partition. We are here, sir. Hope you enjoyed the drive. Much appreciated. How are you today? I'm just as good as I can be, but today's your day, sir. I'm glad you are in charge now. You know, my entire family voted for you. Let's see. Well, thank you and your family. I'm here with all of your support. No reason to thank me, sir. You're the one who sparked a glimmer of hope in us all. Sergei opened the door for me. The normally imposing palace was festooned with garish banners that nearly made it look cheerful. A line of shiny luxury sedans stretched around it. Politicians, bureaucrats, and celebrities, the creme de la creme of the Sordland elite, streamed inside the building. Good luck out there, Mr. President. I'll see you on the trip home. I stepped out and immediately found myself surrounded by loud voices and camera flashes. Hordes of eager journalists thrust their portable microphones my way. My guards fended most of them off, but one woman managed to dodge them and corner me. I recognized the Swordish Broadcasting Company logo on her press lanyard. Mr. President, Mr. President, do you plan on working together with the opposition parties on the expected constitutional reforms? Let's see. We can do the promise nothing, no comment. This one does. Again. Probably not the best way to phrase it in many ways. Oh yeah, we'll work with them if they're willing to support us. Let's see. I mean, the reality is I don't think this decision matters in any real capacity. If anything, it might just change some dialogue down the road. We're going to work with everybody. Mr. Richter clarified that as long as you hold your promises of democratization, they will support you on these issues to the end. What do you think about this statement? I can't comment since I haven't seen his statement yet. Well, you just told us what the statement was. Well, in theory, it's probably a summary of what the statement was. Well, we want the other parties to join him in this endeavor. One more question. One of your first acts as president was to sign a campaign finance law allocating public election funds by seats in the assembly as opposed to the number of votes. Is this a deliberate attempt to defund the Communist Party and the Bludia Workers' Party, neither of which have reached the election threshold? Let's see. That's not strictly true. It was agreed on by the majority of the GNA I couldn't use my veto on the first day. That's enough, ma'am, said one of my guards while nudging the reporter away from me. A path through the crowd was now open, and we quickly made our way to the entrance of the palace. At the same time, a dozen fireworks went off. The entrance was decorated with beautiful ribbons in Sordland's colors of white, yellow, and maroon. A lush maroon carpet had been rolled down the stairs. We entered the lobby and joined the throngs of people making their way towards the ballroom. Behind me, I heard a familiar voice. There they are, the most beautiful family in Sordland. Uncle Peter. Hi, Uncle Peter. It's great to see you. You two are growing faster than I am getting wiser. You're a sight for sore eyes, Peter. Likewise. Happy to see a familiar face, Peter. Evelyn. Peter's wife, Evelyn, approached us and shook our hands with a firmness that belied her delicate features. Congratulations, Anton. I have to say, the results were clear to me from the beginning. There's a woman behind every successful man. What a gentleman. Monica smiled at me. Monica, how are you? You've barely said a word. I'm more than relieved to have this roller coaster ride over with, but of course, now the real work begins. Ah, yes. Managing the help, planning parties, daily trips to the salon to look your best for foreign dignitaries. Don't be so old-fashioned, Evelyn. I plan to use my power as First Lady to advance the position of women throughout Sordland. Equal rights for our sex are long overdue. Wouldn't you say, Anton? Absolutely, and we'll work together to achieve that. Monica flashed me a smile. Deanna suddenly jumped in between us and tugged on my sleeve. Papa, can we go? I want to see the ballroom. Of course, darling. Let's not delay any longer. We left the lobby and made our way to the ballroom. Inside, we were yet again surrounded by a noisy crowd, but this time it was the politicians who sought to appease the new authority in Sordland. I spent the next few hours shaking hands, joining various conversations, some serious, some superficial, and making speeches. We finally settled down at our dinner table with the Vecturns as the band started playing some slow jazz tunes. Oof, that was tiring. Let's see, we have to get used to it. Well... Suddenly, a loud banging noise echoed from outside the ballroom, then another one, and another. The musicians stopped playing. Everyone in the room was looking around in confusion. Peter and I turned towards each other. Realization dawned on both of our faces. Fireworks? No, gunshots. As soon as Monica heard the word, she lunged from her seat. Let's see. Shield Monica and the kids. I threw myself on Monica, Deanna, and Frank to shield them. Papa, what's happening? I knew it. We never should have gone. Chaos broke out as some guests flung themselves under their tables and others ran towards the doors, screaming. Deanna burst into tears while Frank tried to comfort her, hiding the fear in his own eyes. 3 more gunshots rang out loudly. Mr. President, are you all right? Carl Grieser, part of the Sordish police force, was running towards us with 3 more police officers in decorated uniforms. They all had their guns drawn. As soon as he made it to us and saw that we were unharmed, he let out a big sigh of relief. Thank God. Let's see. Check the perimeter. He turned around quickly to his men. Check the perimeter now. Paul, Jansen, follow my lead. We'll bring them to the safe room. He now turned to Monica, Evelyn, and the children and spoke in a softer voice. Do not worry. The situation is now under control. Please follow me. We promptly followed Carl through the winding halls and corridors of the palace, his men still had their guns drawn, which did nothing to ease the tension. On the way, Peter made an attempt to break the silence. What a fucking night. You can say that again. Carl turned to us with a serious face as we were about to round a corner. Quiet, please. Sorry, I talk when I get nervous. Peter, shut up. Carl flipped a switch on the wall and a panel opened, revealing a hidden staircase leading to a large reinforced door. Inside, a set of emergency lights flickered on. The safe room was comfortable and spacious, with expensive-looking leather sofas. Small security monitors on the wall displayed grainy footage of each room in the palace. There was a boardroom and a pantry containing enough provisions to last us months. Monica and Evelyn sat the children down and started wiping their tears. Carl stepped away from us and made a few radio calls. When he was done, he returned to Peter and me. Not the best inauguration ball I've been to. And Peter let out a nervous laugh. Certainly not, sir. Carl's radio suddenly crackled to life. Every second felt like an eternity as he pressed his ear to the receiver. When it fell silent, he turned to us. Good news. We're not in any danger at the moment. The situation has been dealt with and the perimeter has been secured by the guards and the police. He glanced towards Monica, Evelyn, and the kids. If I may, sir. He gestured towards a more private corner of the room and started speaking more quietly. This is what we know so far. We have confirmed that 2 people were gunned down in front of the palace. The attacker is one of them, and we have reasons to believe he was working alone. He fired 3 shots at an MP, 1 to the head, 2 to the body, instantly killing him. Presidential guards of the palace immediately shot and killed the attacker. He has not been identified yet, and will require an investigation. The MP that was killed was identified as Bernard Serkas. This is the, I think we looked at him before. He's basically an MP for the Communist Party. This is huge, Anton. This will cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. Peter pulled out 2 cigarettes and handed me one. He then turned to Evelyn. I could hear him trying to reassure her that everything was going to be all right. Monica was still trying to tend to Diana as Frank paced the room, mumbling that he should have stayed home. Let's go and comfort Monica and the kids. I sat down beside my wife and children. We're safe. I'll make sure everything's going to be fine. We can't be sure of anything anymore, Anton. I lit my cigarette and took a deep drag. I was going to see this through and keep my family safe, at all costs. I crushed the cigarette on the ashtray. Spokesman of the Independents has changed. It is now Mansoon Leek. He is a member of the Workers' Party of Bludia. Got some things in the news. Sordland today. MP shot. Nation in shock. Sordland has been shocked by a grave news today as an elected member of parliament has been shot dead in a suspected political assassination. Police sirens were heard around the clock today at the Holsard Police Force, or as the Holsard Police Force increased security measures around the capital. And the fact that such a violent act happened at the heart of the capital during the new president's inauguration celebrations has worried many citizens. The Red Youth has reported to have promised revenge. This seems like it has the potential to be a spark that would swirl Sordland into the political violence of the 1920s. President Rain gave signals about a cooperation with Franz Richter of the FJP and Casaro Kibnir of NFP ahead of the inauguration ball. Regarding the remarks of Richter about a possible cooperation to fix the current problems of Sordish political institutions, we want the other parties to join him in this endeavor, said President Rain. Richter has long been vocal about his democratization plans, but maybe his demands for constitutional change might finally become a reality if President Rain leads a bill together with Richter's PFJP. Let's read the report. Security measures at the capital have been heightened after the murder of Bernard Circas. The mayor of Holsard reports that everything is under control. Security around the Maroon Palace has been increased with the combined efforts of the Holsard Police Department and the Presidential Guard. Additionally, the entrance procedures to the palace are being revised with advice from security professionals. The police chief, Carl Grieser, reported that an investigation has been launched on the murder of Bernard Circas. We have an emergency meeting in the Situation Room. The mood in the Situation Room was gloomy. My cabinet members were gathered to discuss the shooting outside the palace. Leilas presented the initial report. Bernard Circas was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected independent member of Assembly and, as you know, a famous communist. She spat the last word out with some distaste. The guards at the scene were 50 meters away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as a member of the nationalist organization Young Swords. This is a group that supports the right-wing party, the National Front Party. The president and his family were unharmed, praise God. Let's see. An MP shot near the palace. That is absolutely unacceptable. I agree. We are reevaluating our security measures. However, the recession has affected our ministry negatively. This may well create a dangerous atmosphere where the left versus right political violence of the 1920s could spark once again. A return to those days would be devastating. The coups are the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. Nia Morgana, the Minister of Justice, sighed. The Red Youth has condemned the killing, but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. This will, in turn, spark further aggression from the Young Swords. The whole cycle started because Bernard Circus expressed his views. We can't simply look away. Nia had always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly deserving of the name. She had survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Freedom of expression is part of our Constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone an MP, shot for voicing different opinions. I fully agree we should protect freedom of speech. Our laws do, and for good reason. Silencing voices only results in fear and stagnation inside society. We had that before and know very well how it was. I hear your concerns. Our police do their best to uphold the rights of our citizens. We will prevent such an act from happening again by making sure our security measures are reevaluated. Minister of Defense Isof Lancia grunted in approval. He towered over the rest of us in full military uniform, his many war medals conspicuously on display. Agreed, ma'am. Our gendarmerie, I'm gonna definitely butcher that name, will also help boost security in the rural areas where possible. There might be more violence to come. This is basically an internal security organization under the Ministry of Defense. So obviously, you know, we have our regular police force, and then of course we have the Presidential Guard for ourselves, but then you got this group, who, in a sense, basically, they just kind of serve as an internal security force. They've got military equipment and training, presumably, but they're not intended for, you know, being used to attack neighboring countries or anything like that. We should refrain from making the issue a political one from the start. It will only add fuel to the fire. You're right, we need to defuse the situation. Our government is capable to maintain security. Our job will be to reduce tensions. Several police cars rushed past the Maroon Palace and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation into all involved parties is underway. We will find the subversives and punish them soon enough, Mr. President. I'll do my best to help coordinate the administrative tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return to this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country. We must think about the upcoming budget. We should not lose sight of our real political goals, like the constitutional reforms. Agreed. These matters shouldn't distract us from what the people want us to do. Lucien took some notes after checking the latest newspapers and reports. It seems that the tensions between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. It'll be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there's chaos in the country. But we can't fix the recession if there isn't stability. You are right. We need to trust our ministers to stabilize the situation if it comes to it. That will be all for today then. We will convene again soon. Thank you all and keep us updated. The meeting concluded and the ministers left the room with concerned looks. It was hard to anticipate what would happen next. Let's see. Murder at the palace. Okay, this is just kind of reiterating it from the Lockhaven Times. We heavily condemn this sort of political violence. This is the very cycle the president must break with reforms. Okay, and that is it for this section. Let's continue on. A few days later... Yeah, we got a lot of news reports. Let's see. Swordfish politician shot dead. Again, just reiterating, this is from the Hulsard Post. His funeral will be held tomorrow in his home city of Dare, or however it's pronounced. The local police have reported to have increased security measures for the ceremony and stand ready for a massive attendance. Okay, Sordland today. Unity despite differences. Sordland has two paths to the future, and this year is critical to decide which path we embark upon. Amid a recession, the lack of stability and security caused by the death of Bernard Circus is an unacceptable reality. We need more jobs and a safe atmosphere. Our country is supposed to grow and prosper, but how we will increase our employment and open new factories if there is blood flowing down the streets. Sordland will never reach its goals as an advanced society if we descend in a downward spiral of a splintering of our nation. Peace and prosperity now and forever. Let's see, the only way out of recession, bailing out businesses, according to the economists. Downward trend over the past 2 years. If we want to prevent the country from declaring bankruptcy, we need to find a way out of this recession, and we need it now. Yada, yada, yada. Lockhaven Times. Murder was a method of the past. Again, this is just kind of talking about that assassination. radical, also talking about it now, and again reminding us that the funeral will be held tomorrow in his home city. Although here they don't actually specify that it is his home city. Vogs and labor unions drive further decentralized economic growth, empower workers. Building upon the foundations, yada yada yada. A successful example of their socialism and practice has led to a remarkable 17% increase in productivity and an impressive 33% rise in worker satisfaction. Encouraged by these results, calls for the expansion of decentralized structures across various sectors of the economy have gained momentum. Arcasian PMC descends on Marrowbone amid resource extraction controversy. In the midst of a politically unstable situation in Marrowbone, the largest Arcasian private military corporation, Palantir Security Solutions, PSS, has deployed its forces to the resource-rich nation. Several sources reveal that the Arcasian PMC has been contracted by several multinational corporations to secure and extract valuable natural resources amidst the chaos. Marrowbone, a country in the continent of Rika, has been grappling with internal strife and weak governance, leading to a power vacuum. This has opened doors for foreign interests to exploit the situation and extract the abundant resources, such as oil, minerals, and rare earth metals, present within their borders. Reports suggest that PSS has already established several forward operating bases, yada yada yada. Okie dokie. Communist leader suspected in bomb attack. At 11:48 a.m., an unintended bag in front of the NFP office in Valgan was destroyed by the police on suspicions of a bomb threat, which were then verified. Upon further investigation, the Communist Party leader of Valgan, Milt Hanner, has been arrested in connection to the incident. Weapons seized in Cultural Center. Local police forces report that a wardrobe full of heavy military equipment has been seized in a Young Swords Cultural Center in Jen. Police captured 22 rifles and 2 machine guns, and the equipment belonged to the Swedish Armed Forces, dated 1929, but kept in very good condition. Legal firearms found in Communist Party office in Bergen. Building has been closed and 22 members of the Communist Party of Sordland have been detained. Or excuse me, Rybel, rather, is actually where that was. Suzerain. Young Sword Youth Wing leader dead after terror attack. His base of operations has been raided and he was found dead inside with 2 bullet wounds to the back of the head. The scene was organized to make it look like a suicide. We were not able to get information about the location of other ringleaders connected to the terrorist attack. Suzerain. Illegal KA-74s seized. 47 of those, 2,854 bullets, 12 handguns, and 27 grenades and bomb-making materials were found in the basement of an abandoned house in... some of these names, I'm just gonna not consistently pronounce them. No suspects have been detained yet. Yet a second thing. Sold dam at maximum capacity. That's not great. I might need to work on that then. Police understaffed in Narbel, and we'll have to deal with that. Police overburdened into Estford, or Estord rather. Officers have been working 12-hour shifts to suppress the protests to no avail. Let's zoom out to the regional map because we have some stuff here. Smolak warns traders. The latest diplomatic message from the leader of Wayland warned us regarding a pathway from the mountains of Bergia that allowed traders of the state escaping to Sordland. He has demanded that the border security to be increased. He also sent his best wishes about handling the protests in Sordland. Horten critiques trade. The leader of Agnolia has diplomatically critiqued the imbalance of trade between our countries. Concerns were raised over how much more Sordland profits from net trade in comparison to Agnolia. Prime Minister Martine van Horten requests a fair reevaluation of existing treaties and future negotiations. I think that can be arranged, buddy. The reports of BFF activity in the capital. The chief of police reports that 2 British women with affiliations to the British Freedom Front have been caught in Holsar before they could execute a terror attack at a crowded rally. Both women are listed as wanted criminals and enemies of the state. The arrested women have admitted their intentions to attack the National Front Party's rally at Seoul Square, with Kasaro Kibner gave his speech but rejected any connections to the BFF. Both claimed that they were acting alone. Police reports that the situation is under control and further investigations are underway. Okay, security briefing on the threat against Sordland. I arrived in front of the doors leading to the Situation Room. Today's security briefing was arranged in two parts, starting with internal matters and moving on to external matters after a short break. The Minister of Interior, Leilas Graf, and the Minister of Justice and Law, Nia Morgana, would join us for the first part, the law enforcement briefing. For the second part, the Minister of Defense, Isof Lancia, would join with a few high-ranking officials, including the Chief of the Armed Forces, Valken Kruger. I opened the door. Lucien, Nia, and Leilas rose from their seats. Sir? Let's begin. Everyone in the room sat down except for Lucien. He put on his glasses and went through the documents in front of him. Shortly after, he raised his head to address the attendees. Mr. President, ladies, we will kick off today's meeting with the internal security briefing. I am assuming everyone has already been over the agenda. We all have busy schedules, so without further ado, I will jump into our first topic. As we feared, the political atmosphere has worsened. The reports around the country indicate that tensions are rising as we feared. What is the status of the Bernard Circos investigation? I have received news that this morning that the investigation into the murder of Bernard Circos has concluded. Please enlighten us. The more we know, the better. After further investigation and testimonies, we have confirmed the motive and also the events leading up to the shooting. A few days prior to members of the Red Youth initiated a violent attack on a Young Swords local leader in Gen. We believe the Young Swords then called for revenge, leading to the death of Mr. Circos. Since he often spoke against the Young Swords and nationalist sentiments in the assembly, he was a big target, not to mention his radical communist views. Political violence needs to stop, now. Yes, we've kept it at bay for so long, but it seems that there are now new triggers. Leilas handed over the report and pointed at a highlighted section in the document. The investigation revealed a very troubling fact. The funding sources of the Red Youth have a clear link to United Cantana. Are you sure? Yes, we have found the cash trail. Several Red Youth members with ties to United Cantana have been detained, and the information extracted from them points to a preparation for a communist uprising in Sordland. It isn't unusual for the superpowers to influence other nations, but I think this case is a little far-fetched. The left lacks popular support in Sordland. Nia eagerly lifted her hand. I motioned for her to speak. I went over the report in detail. It would be wrong to jump to conclusions about a clear foreign interference yet. United Cantana has humanitarian and cultural ties with many countries, including Sordland. I also don't want to jump to conclusions immediately. We shouldn't create a crisis with them. Nearly 3 decades ago, they funded General Rekard and tried to establish a communist dictatorship in our country. If it was not for Colonel Sol, we would have seen the real crisis. She took a sip from her glass of water and continued. Our police chief, Karl Grieser, has linked the funding channel to the United Cantana consulate in Benfi. As we all know, the enemies of Sordland are many, but we also have threats inside the country. Our country has always had issues. This is part of our job. If we give up essential freedoms to protect or to purchase temporary security, we deserve neither freedoms nor security. This is debatable, but yes, we know what more security and surveillance caused to this country under President Sol. Let's not forget that President Sol, God bless him, brought stability after a long period of bloodshed and chaos. But moving on. Our highest internal threat comes from the estimated 20,000-strong Bloodish Freedom Front led by the imprisoned Dalen Arge. They are a banned political organization, now a militant force that is trying to incite racial violence. Let's see. Well, are they actually supported by our Bloodish? God, I'm never going to pronounce that consistently. Citizens? To some extent, luckily, they couldn't attract a wide audience of bloods, whatever. But they could potentially attract thousands if anti-Bloodish sentiments spread in Sordland again. Pointing to page 3 in the report, our intelligence intercepted 2 crates filled with weapons close to the Rumburg border. They were filled with military-grade Ka-74s. We expect that more have been smuggled in. A group of Bloods were caught with these guns at a checkpoint not far away. The governor of Bergia, Felix Braun, is already taking the necessary measures to counter the threat. Rumburger's been acting aggressively in the region for a long time. I'm not surprised that they would attempt to weaponize the British people against us. This is worrying. Very worrying. Let's see. Can we make any direct correlations between the BFF and Rumburg? Not yet, but we have suspects that indicate such a correlation. This is grave news. We must be careful not to stoke the fires of anti-British sentiment. Unfortunately, Governor Braun is directly causing the tensions to increase with his increasingly anti-British stance. I must remind you, Governor Braun is directly responsible for the arrest of Dewelin Arga, the previous leader of the BFF. It's true that his methods can be extreme at times, but it was his policies that kept the region peaceful over the last decade. He is misusing the powers given to him by Tarkin Sol. The insane authority of the governor is surely a root cause. It would be very difficult to revoke the special status of Bergia under the current circumstances, Miss Morgana. The presidents no longer have the authority Tarkin Sol enjoyed. For now, yes, but with enough justification for it, it would be possible. Anyway, we will be discussing this at a later time. Let's see. No, I'd like to hear more. As you know, Bergia was given a special status by Tarkin Sol after the full-scale uprising by the BFF against the Sordish government in 35. Those couple years were disastrous for Bergia. Dewelin Arge and the BFF declared war on us, openly attacked our people, and occupied entire cities. It was a massive uprising, but I'd like to point out that the longest they were in control of a city was 2 weeks. I wouldn't call that an occupation. Despite the arrest of Dewelin Arge in 44 and the BFF ceasing its activities, the special status of the region were never revoked. Today, the special zone of Bergia gives the governor insane amounts of authority. He was in trouble with the law before for not following the central government's authority. Unfortunately, Bergia also has its own police force directly commanded by Governor Braun. They are not part of my ministry and only cooperate when they are forced to do so. This is a problem. Even though our forces have the authority to serve in Bergia, the special zone leaves the security of Bergia mostly in the hands of the governor. That leaves my hands tied. Let's see. The discrimination Bergia suffers is maddening. We should find a way to revoke the special status of Bergia one way or another. I will do my best, Mr. President. What is the second most important threat? It is the gang violence that is threatening the Nargis and Angland regions. 2 prominent organized crime families are at war, and the potential for bloodshed is real. Which 2 crime families? One is known as the Corneli, and the other is the Skinner Cartel. They used to be allies until a recent disagreement. Both are active in the cities of Narbel and Estord. Leyless, I trust that you can handle them. I am doing my best, sir. I shall be honest with you. With our current capabilities, we may not be able to prevent the further arming of separatists while maintaining order in Bergia, Nargis, and Angland. If the law enforcement budget isn't increased, I can't be fully responsible for what happens. Our police units are spread thin as is. In light of this information, I might increase the law enforcement budget. We will rid our country from separatists and violent thugs if you do so. I wish you would stop using the word thugs, Leyless. The real problem is corruption, which is fueling the gang violence and is very likely the reason why these weapons were smuggled in. A higher budget could help us end this. Let's see. Valid points. Corruption is the root of all evil, after all. We can look into corruption once the weapons have been found and the gangs have been beaten. Just like previous administrations kicking the can down the road, this is what's destroying our institutions. Leyless and Neo were openly scowling at each other. Leyless turned back to her notes. Well, this concludes the topics for the internal portion. Thank you for the updates, Miss Graff, Miss Morgana. Thank you for the overview. Have a good day. Until next time. The 2 ministers left the room. We took a short break before continuing to the second part. Upon invitation, Aesop Lancia, along with 3 high-ranking officials from the Ministry of Defense, walked into the room. One of the men was none other than General Kruger, the Chief of the Armed Forces. Aesop made his way towards the table while the others stood by the door. Mr. President. Aesop, welcome. I brought General Kruger with me due to the escalation on our borders. General Kruger stepped forward and saluted. He had a strong jaw with sharp cheekbones. His tall stature, uniform, and medals, combined with his deep and intense stare, made him look threatening. He was in his 70s, yet he had a bulky body that was a result of his commando training. Not only was he the second most decorated officer in Sordland, he was also the longest serving. We'll salute him. He smiled at the gesture and bowed his head in respect. Aesop tapped his foot impatiently. He seemed uneasy with the presence of another high-ranking officer in the room. Gentlemen, thanks for coming into this significant gathering. Let's begin. Aesop and Vulcan took their seats at the table while the rest of the officers stood by the door. Mr. President, the situation at the western and northern borders towards Rumburg is very tense. We are observing deployments of divisions closer to our border. Rumburg has been acting increasingly expansionist in the past decades and also interfered in Agnolia, but now they have turned their sights on us. This concerns me very much. We are observing these areas actively. Our contingency plans are ready. It seems like they want to increase the pressure both externally and internally. Mr. President, if I may. Please, General. The picture is becoming clearer. The latest information from the interior about the weapons caches, and now there is an active military buildup close to our borders. The entire situation was analyzed by our general staff, and our prediction is a future territorial incursion by Rumburg. Let's see. I have complete trust in the general staff. We will not let you down, Mr. President. The general staff is composed of the smartest military individuals. I require an increase in the military budget to enlist more soldiers. Only then we can stand strong against our enemies. The enlarged armed forces will hold them at bay. Vulcan is right. We do need an increase in the military budget. Although we don't see eye to eye on exactly how to spend the budget, that much we agree on. I have my concerns about Rumburg too. We need strong allies to withstand such a superior power. They are our nemesis. That is an understatement. Times are changing and war is coming, Mr. President. Whether we like it or not, we must be prepared. During the election, you said nothing about focusing on our military. I ask you to reconsider and to increase the military budget. The future and safety of Sordland is in your hands. As you said, times change, Aesop. We will see. A smile brought a glimmer of hope on Aesop's face. Our forces would crumble under a decrease, and Rumburg would be much more compelled to exploit our weakness. Our country hasn't fallen to any invading force for 200 years. You cannot let it happen, Mr. President. We should find regional allies like Volksland or Lispia to deter Rumburg. There are several options on the table. Let's see. Rumburg wouldn't attack any nation allied with any superpower. One shudders at the sacrifices they would require us to make. Yes, but what is the difference between losing your independence to one or the other? Everyone fell silent when a soldier entered the room and let Aesop Lancia know that a call had come through from the ministry. Excuse me, Mr. President. Aesop left the room to answer. A few minutes later, he entered the room again. His expression had changed. Mr. President, there is a Rumburgian military There has been Rumburgian military activity close to the Narbel border. I just spoke with the local commander. Vulcan, we should go to the ministry and get further updates from our branches. Understood. Raising military readiness is the first call of action. If there is truly an extraordinary attempt, we will relay it to you immediately and wait for further orders, Mr. President. Let's see. Make sure they know we are observant and ready. Always watching, always ready is our motto, sir. Hail, Sordland. Hail. They saluted and left the room. Rumburg was already testing us, and the reports from the interior indicate interference inside our borders. Communists, nationalists, Bludish rebels, Rumburg expansionism. What was next? Sordland had always been a key piece in the chessboard of the global rivalry between Arcasia and United Contana. But in the recent years, there was no such aggression from Rumburg, not at these levels at least. All it takes is one tiny spark to start the flames of war. The phone rang. Rumburg had decided to close their consulate in Lockhaven. So we have nationwide revolts and diplomatic pressure. Let's see. Rumors of an infrastructure project. Anonymous sources have reported to Sordland today that several government officials have invited construction companies to meetings regarding a new major infrastructure project. If true, this is great news, as infrastructure in Sordland is lacking heavily needed investment. Well, we hope that very qualified and experienced companies like Underhall Construction win the bid. Underhall Construction, once again, #1. At The Economist, we think now is a great time to invest in Underhall Construction, as the current year's projections already show a 13% increase in growth compared to the last year. A 15-year-old girl was shot to death in Narbel as she walked her dog a few blocks away from her apartment, area affiliated with the gang Coronelli. Was a reckless act of violence and the victim was not the target. Was shot about 4:45 p.m. right before she was returning home. Let's see. We've all seen this scenario before. Large corporate businesses time and time again receive money from the government under the disguise of helping the economy, but what about the people? Many of the neglected regions still do not have electricity or fresh water in their homes, and they're the lucky ones. There is a growing housing crisis and people are on the streets begging for food in the year of 1954. It is high time that money is invested in us, the people of Sordland, instead of armchair millionaires in the luxurious villas. Let's see. Okay. So just talking about how we don't want to go back to 1927. Rumburg closes their consulate. Rumburg has closed down its consulate in Sordland, one of the few East Marcopan nations to have diplomatic ties with the Northern Kingdom. This comes right from the deployment of Rumburg, or right after the deployment of Rumburgian troops near the northern border of Sordland. Rumburgian officials cite political unrest and uncertainty as the main reasons for the closure, while raising concerns over security in the country. In Lockhaven, a diplomatic source said the Rumburgian flag has been lowered overnight, and that the diplomatic staff were expected to leave Sordland on Friday or Saturday. Many Lockhavers were shocked as the 120-year-old Rumburg consulate closed. Dozens of citizens with Rumburgian relatives went out to protest against this action in the afternoon. It was not clear if the consulate closure was temporary or permanent, signaling a break in diplomatic ties with date from 1923. Our editors see the situation as a further deterioration of relations between Sordland and Rumburg. This can be easily regarded as a one-sided provocation from the north. Okay, that's going to be it for this part. I will see you all next time, where we will be, I don't know, what do we have for any major decisions? We have family at home or dinner at home with the family, and that looks to be about it in terms of actual decision making to do. At least, for immediately. But until next time, goodbye and farewell.